Hey there. Would you like to see one of the very first Victorinox Fisherman? Well, you're looking at it. How can I make such a bold claim? Well, I'll show you. First of all, we can see that this is an older knife because of the exposed awl and the exposed rivets. So the exposed awl would date it pre-1961 approximately, and the exposed rivets really pre-1957. But maybe that's another subject for another time. And we know it's a Fisherman because it has a fish scaler. Now it does have the corkscrew, and I know by today's nomenclature this would be an angler, and to be a fisherman it would have to have the Phillips driver. But if you go to the earliest catalog that this type of knife shows up in, the very first one with a fish scaler, that's the one that I found was the 1954 catalog on SacWiki. And they have a knife there with the fish scaler and the corkscrew called the Fisherman. Matter of fact, it's pretty much identical to this one except for a couple of differences. And the first is that it has tweezers and a toothpick, whereas this knife, interestingly, just has the tweezers. And they are, of course, aluminum tipped. The other difference, which makes this knife really cool, is the can opener. Now, Victorinox states that they brought out the fish scaler in 1952. And they brought out their new style can opener, the forward action one with the small screwdriver at the tip, in 1951. So what is this knife doing with the old style lobster claw style can opener? So this is one of those parts paradoxes that you often find, where you have a tool that was supposed to have been phased out on a knife with a tool that was phased in later. So I'm thinking this knife dates probably from 1952. The first year the fish scaler came out, and Victorinox might have been using up some old stock, using up these old style can openers, even though they had already come out a year earlier with the smaller forward action one, the patented one. So, but the reason I say this is probably one of the very first Fishermen is that the stock of old parts, when they would make a transition like that, was usually used up in months. Did not take years. In some cases the transition was a little longer, but usually you're talking months. So this reminds me a lot of a tinker that I had, where I had tinker had a Phillips driver, and it had this older style can opener. Well, this can opener was supposed to have run from 1946 up to like 1950, and then in 51 they came out with the new one. But the fish scaler and the Phillips were introduced in 1952. So I made that claim back then that was one of the very first tinkers. And I'll make the same claim to this knife. It's one of the very first Fishermen. Really, really cool. The other thing that's really great about this knife is its condition. This knife has not been refurbished. It's just been lightly cleaned to take off a little corrosion on the liners and the bail. And you can just see the sheen of those scales and the condition, the look of the back springs. There's not a lot of scuffing or scratches. The blades look great. Original edges, clean inside. There was just a little bit of rust on the inside of a couple of the liners. That was pretty stubborn, and this knife has not been sanded, polished, anything like that. It's just that pristine. Now, being a Fisherman, in addition to your basic tool set and the fish scaler disgorger I just showed you, it also has scissors and a very teeny nail nick here. And the only thing really that's wrong with this knife is that when I got it and started to close the scissors, the old vintage scissor spring just fell in half. It was that corroded. So I've fit a modern one in there for now, which can always be removed and replaced with another vintage or age-appropriate scissor spring when one can be found. But for now, having workable scissors with a modern spring is better than no scissors at all. So there you have it. A beautiful, awesome condition first Fisherman. Really nice. It's not my knife, unfortunately, so I wanted to make a video on it before I sent it along. I really do appreciate you watching.